So let me get this straight. I'm somewhere that's not what I would call Earth. I'm seeing freaking dragons, and oh yeah, I'm talking to a cuff. Yeah, okay, that is something I do now. I do magic, kill jacked up beasts. I'll probably fly next.
Shut up!
I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
So, let me get this straight. I'm somewhere that's not what I would call Athens. I'm seeing freaking trolls, and oh yeah, I'm talking to my son.
Let's sniff up that Susan Wojcicki special YouTube pepperoni that she sent me in the mail so that I actually have the willpower to talk about this garbage today, because yes, we are talking about Forspoken. This is my Forspoken game review. Now, do you remember Final Fantasy 15? It was a pretty good game, but on release, it was pretty lackluster to say the least. It had a lot of issues at launch, especially on certain platforms, and Forspoken looks like it's carrying those gameplay elements forwards because Square Enix are just innovative and passionate and creative, and they only care about giving you, the gamers, the best possible experience imaginable. So in this Forspoken game review, I'm going to break down what's good about it and what's bad. Now, this is based off of the early game that I've played, because that's what I'm going to get into. There is some shady stuff going on with the developers. Now, I also made a video about the Callisto Protocol a while back, and I was the first person pretty much on the platform to call it out for the utter crap that it was. Now, I know some people like it, and fair enough, it's not a bad game, but it's not a good game. And the first telltale sign of that was because they weren't allowing gameplay to release beforehand by independent content creators. They weren't giving out review codes until the day that it releases. I don't understand how people seem to think that this is perfectly legit and it's nothing to worry about, and they just go ahead with their pre-orders. For those people, I don't feel sad if you wasted your money, because you have to be pretty goddamn stupid to pre-order a game that has no actual content out there, except a few snippets from selected, publishers that are paid off because the industry is completely corrupted. Now, Susan Wojcicki might demonetize this video because I don't censor my speech. She might, feel so inclined to splurge all over my face. Oh, Susan, you naughty, naughty girl. You almost pied right into my eye. Jesus. Jesus Christ, there's just cream pies just being thrown across the room at me. Pies made of cream, okay, just to make that clear. Forspoken is an action RPG game where you play as an independent, strong woman from New York who loves coffee and bagels, where she can educate those cis magical folk on the magical place that she comes from, New York City, which is bustling and full of diverse life and not lots of dying homeless people. Sorry for a little bit of madness there. I just get so excited when I get to play a new video game, because the modern day gaming industry is just a treasure nowadays. Developers truly care. Developers are so devoted to the craft of video games nowadays. It's not like it used to be where they would just actually put time and effort into their work beforehand, make sure that it actually works day one, and make sure that they don't lie to you, not lying to you with twisted marketing campaigns, just constantly being shat out. So now let's get into my Forspoken game review, and let's be serious for a moment. So like I said, I've only played the early section of the game because the developers won't let you show your own gameplay to the public, which is absolutely criminal if you ask me. And this game feels so dated, okay? The animations are so terrible. The dialogue between the characters, it looks completely off. Now, I don't care about graphics, okay? I love games like Fallout New Vegas. I actually care about the story, the dialogue, the writing, all of that good stuff. However, with Forspoken, it's not just the characters that are uninspired, for writing that's uninspired, for dialogue which is absolutely corny and cheesy and full of cringe one-liners because you have a magical companion strapped to your wrist 24/7, which gets very annoying very quickly. You have no idea, trust me. And I think they might tone it down, or there probably is an option to turn it off on the final release, I hope, but it is pretty unbearable. But when the characters aren't detailed with their animations, or the graphics are just kind of, sparse, and it's just kind of shallow and empty, I expect the world space to at least be interesting. I expect the writing, the story elements to actually be interesting, but no, there's nothing going on in this game, okay? It's just empty space, combat for the sake of combat. The combat is fun, but the AI is terrible. They just wait around waiting for you to attack them. The attack pattern of the enemies are so broken because there is so much movement involved in the combat, which I do like, but because the AI is broken, you can easily exploit the enemies because of the broken AI. And to me, this game feels very much like Sonic Frontiers did. An empty world space with a terrible storyline and terrible writing. This game, I don't know who it was made for. I have no idea. I think it's trying to capture the modern, strong, kind of, Netflix and chill, woke generation, I guess, with the writing. It's kind of a cool idea, blending, someone from modern times suddenly being thrust into a magical new world. Execution here is just terrible, okay? The gameplay is bland, it's boring. You go around, you collect loot, you clear out enemies. There are different, trials that you can engage with, like combat arenas, and you just have to, fight waves and waves of enemies over and over again until the challenge is done. There are time trials where you have to dash around the map and stuff like that. It feels very much like Sonic Frontiers in some ways. I know that's a weird comparison, but honestly it does. And it's just terrible, okay? It's just not interesting. And the big problem is it's fundamentally broken. I don't know what's happened to the gaming industry. It's just sad that it's come to this point where you truly can't trust AAA developers anymore. They are only in it for the money. They know they've kind of found a weird loophole where they can release a game, market it with some reality behind it, and just rake in a lot of money from pre-orders, because sadly, so many people, so many idiots are still pre-ordering games, and the industry is never going to change if you pre-order broken games, and that's just the sad reality. People need to wake up and stop giving, these companies, these corporations so much power, because you as a consumer need to take back your powers and realize that you can change with your money. You can change with your wallet. You have the power, actually. And it's just sad because now we live in such a capitalistic, consumer world, where if you see a new thing that looks shiny through marketing or advertising, then a lot of people just pre-order it without even playing it or without even seeing actual reviews of the game. The only good thing about this is the fluidity of, movement. I like that in an open world game where you're not just walking around, or you don't just hop on a vehicle or horse or whatever. They actually have interesting ways to traverse the boring and open landscape, but at least that's interesting. The combat is also fun and engaging, and like I said, there's a lot of momentum to it, and you can move around, and there are so many different spells to play around with, which is great. But then everything else just falls flat on its face. What you're doing in this world is uninteresting. It's bloated open world game design 101. It's like they learned nothing from, games like Breath of the Wild or Elden Ring or any of that kind of stuff. It's just your standard, bog standard quest design and all of that kind of stuff. The writing and the dialogue is cheesy, corny, and patronizing to the intelligence of anyone playing this game. And finally, the art style and graphics are just generic, in my opinion. They're just very boring. The creature design and enemy design just look like the person who was creating that, the art director behind it, just kind of gave up halfway. I don't know why. It's just generic Monsters 101. And the world space is so unfinished and so boring, okay? The NPCs just stand around. They don't do anything whatsoever. There's no interaction with anyone or anything like that, just the quest givers. This game is just unfinished. Now, this is pretty suspect because the gameplay that we see is only being released by the developers from a very high-end machine, and the PC recommendations for this game just look absolutely insane. You know, they are expecting you to have a super beast of a machine to run this even at 30 FPS, so no doubt the PS5 performance mode is going to be rough and janky. It wasn't fluid when I played the early version of the demo and stuff like that. If you enjoy MMO style combat, you know, stuff like Black Desert Online, then you're going to enjoy this, because if you just want to farm enemies and collect stuff and nice character controls of navigating the landscape, like I said, then this game might be worth it on a deep sale. But as a package, I think this is fundamentally broken and easily a cash grab, and this is just what the industry has become, and it's very, very sad to see, and more content creators need to call out developers on this bullshit. And the biggest problem is the outlets like IGN and stuff like that, who are just paid off to give good reviews, and I'm just so tired of this blatant BS that we get from the new modern gaming industry. So that is my Forspoken Game review. It's uninteresting, it's bland, it's unoriginal, the dialogue is terrible, the open world mechanics are just the same that we see in so many like Ubisoft games. The lore in this world could have been interesting, but sadly it's not, because it's ruined by terrible dialogue with some kind of weird modern, you know, ideology forced in there. And even though I said moving around in this game is good, it does still feel floaty, and you don't actually have control over your character really. You just hold down an automatic button and you can just jump over anything. It's just, you know, a casual, boring, bloated game. And the biggest thing is the performance is just terrible. The dynamic resolution just makes everything look like a blurry mess, because it just can't cope with whatever they tried to do here. And I hope that my review of Forspoken was useful. Like I said, it was only based on the early game, so maybe the full release is great, but I'm not gonna risk it, and neither should you.